Hello, folks. It's Craig Bielik, your Untamed TV television host. Thanks for watching. We're very privileged today to be joined by Dr. Brandon Fisher. Dr. Fisher is a radiation oncologist. He also has an organization called Radiating Hope, and he is also a mountain climber. So I know what you're thinking. So how does all that come together? How does that all come together? And that's the reason we're here today, and we're going to jump right into it. So, Dr. Fisher, first off, tell us a little bit about Radiating Hope. It's an interesting title. So where does it go? What is this all about?
Yeah, so Radiating Hope. So I'm a radiation oncologist, like you said, and I always thought in my life that I want to do medical missions in my field. And during my residency, I had a couple months, 3 months off, and I wanted to do a medical mission in radiation oncology, and went searching and didn't find anything. And thought, why is there no medical mission in my field? And I was a little bit heartbroken at that moment. I thought, well, I talked to other radiation oncologists, and they said, oh, you could do it in primary care. You know, you go on a primary care physician type medical mission. I thought, well, no, I want to do it in cancer. And so I took those 3 months, and rather than do a medical mission, I did research in cancer care and what's going on in these developing countries, so that maybe I could do a medical mission if a door opened up. And as I did my research block, I realized that cancer is a leading cause of death in these developing countries. In fact, in Africa, it kills more people than HIV, AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis in many of the countries there. Not all the countries, but pretty high death rate.
You don't hear that.
Yeah,
I mean, that is something that most people do not know.
Yeah, you don't hear that a lot. And you don't even hear a lot about cancer. AIDS get a lot of publicity, but cancer doesn't get a lot of leverage and doesn't get a lot of support in these developing countries. And when I was just in Tanzania a couple months ago, I was walking the streets and talking with a boy, and he said, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here to give cancer care to people. And he said, give cancer care? You can't treat cancer. You can only die from cancer. And I was like, oh, no, we can treat it. In fact, in America, we have 15 million cancer survivors. So anyways, in doing this research, I realized cancer is a big problem in these developing countries, and the biggest problem they have is they don't have access to care. In America, we have one radiation machine for every 100,000 people. Unfortunately, in Utah, we have one radiation machine for every 70,000 people here. So we have, we're well stocked with radiation treatments and cancer treatments, and really get a pretty good outcome in this state.
But how's that compare in your developing
countries?
How's
it compare there? Yeah. So we look at, if you look at Tanzania, they have one radiation machine for 40 million people. Senegal, West Africa, they have one machine for 13 million, and that one machine they did have for those 13 million people, it broke down about 2 months ago. So now they have none. And it just goes like that. Nepal, one machine for 15 million, and so on and so on. They just don't have the equipment. And so I presented this data to one of my mentors. He's a radiation oncologist named Luther Brady. And Luther Brady, he writes the textbook for radiation. He loves radiation, eats, drinks, sleeps it every day. And he said, you know what? And he's 85 at the time, still working 5 days a week.
Sounds like I need to eat some radiation. I heard that quote. But
all superheroes eat radiation. So anyways, he said, you know what you need to do? 85, and he's like, just start a nonprofit. And he said, I sent one of my old machines to Peru, I sent a machine to Madagascar, I sent a machine here and there, and they're all up and running still to date. And he said, just start a nonprofit. It'll be a way that companies in the United States or hospitals in the United States can give machines, and you will give them a tax deduction, and in return you take that machine to the developing country, and you set up medical missions where radiation oncologists could come train people on those machines. He said, if it doesn't exist, don't give up, just go out and do it. And so despite being a resident and everything, he was very supportive and helped me get it off the ground, and we started Radiating Hope right there with my co-resident, Larry Doherty.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. So, just kind of in a nutshell, simple, well, I was going to say simple cancers. There are no such thing as simple cancers. But a cancer that's very treatable in the United States ends up killing someone in these countries simply because they have no access to that care.
Yeah, exactly. Something that we can treat and cure out here is going to be a death sentence out there.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So where have you placed machines?
So we've placed machines in 15 different countries now. Some closer to here. We've gone to Mexico, we've gone to Guatemala, we've gone to Honduras, And then in Africa, we've gone to Senegal, with Tanzania. We're working with Ghana. And then as of right now, we currently have a trip planned to the base camp of Mount Everest, and we're going to work with Nepal.
Okay.
And Nepal is a country with 26 million people, and they have 8 radiation machines. 2 of them are broken. And we have just received 4 radiation machines that we're going to donate to Nepal for this trip. Wow. And those machines were donated. One was a machine that's at Ogden Regional right now.
Really?
And so
that was my follow-up question is where do you get these machines? I mean, you can't go to Costco and pick one up or anything.
Yeah, no, it's not that easy. Yeah, they're expensive machines. These machines, millions of dollars. The machine they have at Ogden Regional, is one of the fanciest machines ever invented, called tomotherapy. And that machine, it's too expensive. But in America, to be a nice competitive cancer center, we update our machines every 10 years. Those old machines are usually scrapped. They still probably have another 10, 15 years in them.
Wow.
And so we will accept those machines. And the 4 machines we got for Nepal are actually donated all out of a Utah company called Gamma West. Wow. Gamma West partners with Ogden Regional, and there's a machine there. And so they're updating their machines, and we just happen to get it in at the right time.
Interesting. So I imagine you've seen these results firsthand. You said you've gone there, and can you tell us a story of something a person's life you've actually saved, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's kind of fascinating. There was no real medical missions in radiation oncology, and now there's this avenue where people can do this, and it's really caused a chain reaction. We see lots more medical missions now opening up in radiation oncology across the board. In fact, I've been contacted from doctors from University of California, San Diego, MD Anderson, Mayo Clinic, all these great academic centers, and they're all participating. And we had so much interest that now we do symposiums every year in Africa where all the African radiation oncologists come and meet, and we train them and do special training just specific for them. But one in particular instance, when we were over in Senegal, we had donated a machine to Senegal to help them treat their most common cancer, which is cervical cancer. And when we donated that machine to them, the physicist in particular, physicist is a person who works on the radiation machine, keeps it running, does quality checks on it. She just broke down in tears saying, oh my heck, we could finally treat cancer with a curative intent here. And she just broke down in tears. And we've later sent people to go out there and actually track some of the patients, and they're just so appreciative. When we were out in Senegal, people would come into the clinic and they would say, oh, you're the ones bringing us the life-saving treatments. Thank you, thank you so much.
Wow.
And so
that's gotta be really. I mean, you put your head on the pillow at night and go, "Hey, I really did something."
Support of a lot of people pitching in, so it was pretty neat.
Good deal. I mentioned right at the beginning, and you've kind of alluded to it a couple of times about you being a mountain climber, and that you're planning on going to Nepal and taking a machine, and you're going to summit Everest in April of this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Is this your first time?
Top of the world. I've done a lot of mountain climbing over the years, and Everest is the ultimate mountain, and just the pure respect that gets, and we're going to give it a shot to climb up it. As we started Radiating Hope, we always thought we needed a fundraising platform. To receive a donated machine, it's completely free, but when we get a donated machine, there's a couple of obstacles right out of the gate. One is decommissioning the machine and removing it from the clinic, which costs almost $30,000.
Right, these are big machines.
Big machines, You
can't throw them in the back of your Camry or whatever and drive them away.
Not that easy. And then the next step is you got to ship them, crate them up and ship them, about $5,000. And then you have to recommission them and then maintain them, which is usually a maintenance contract of up to $100,000. Wow. And so we get a free machine, and then we're like, well, that machine is going to cost us $150,000 to really get it placed and up and running. And so with that alone, we have turned down quite a few machines. We probably had maybe 50 offered to us, but only have accepted a handful. Just because of that pure obstacle. So we needed a fundraising platform, and we needed a platform that could speak to people, and that's where mountain climbing came in. Since I do love mountain climbing, I thought it's a perfect avenue that I could slip even more of my passions into something that could actually produce some good. And so what we do is we climb mountains, and we climb mountains as a fundraising effort. And on those fundraising efforts, we kind of have two things going on. One is we like to bring cancer survivors on these trips. In fact, Ogden Regional has sponsored for the last couple of years a cancer survivor that comes with us.
Right, you got somebody going this way.
Yeah, we have someone this year,
right,
and it's really neat having them because most of these mountains we climb are in developing countries. They're in Kilimanjaro's in Tanzania. You have Ecuador has big mountains. All these developing countries have big mountains, and so we take these cancer survivors on those mountains and we climb it all together. Now, sometimes it takes between 5 to 10 days to climb these mountains because they're so big and enormous. But they push on. These cancer survivors have learned how to push on through difficult things. They've learned how to really find out what they're made of and push through really hard obstacles. And so when they climb these mountains, we follow them. We make a little documentary about it, and then we present it to the government of these developing countries and say, hey, look, not only can you beat cancer, but after you've beaten cancer, you can climb a huge mountain like Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
And so that just inspires them to think, you know what, oh my gosh, there is life after cancer. And so that's one big aspect is they become we call it a super advocate. They tell their story and show that there's life after cancer. And then the other thing is we usually ask our climbers, so maybe 25% are cancer survivors, and then the other half are just novice climbers who we want to tell a story of why they're climbing. And these climbers, we ask them to get pledges, and they'll get pledges from the population and raise money. And most of our climbs will raise maybe $100,000 to help place these machines and get them up and running.
That's incredible.
So,
you have this figured out. You get to do what you like in all aspects and avenues, and yet you also get to help people immensely.
Oh yeah, there's everybody has these things that make them work in life, and for me it's climbing mountains, treating cancer, and doing philanthropy. And I was able to kind of put in this package deal, and for me it works. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've never climbed Everest before?
No, never.
It's going to be the first time. How high is Everest?
Yeah, so it's 29,000 feet.
29,000. So help me out here. Ogden's highest peak is that?
Ogden's highest about 10,000.
It's about 10,000. So it's 3 of Ogden's
highest peaks. So just stacked 2 Ben Lomond's. There are 3 Ben Lomond's on top of each other.
On top of each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Wow.
Pretty
and
monstrous.
you feel like you're ready?
Well, you just hope you're ready. Working full time, there's not a ton of time in the day.
Yeah.
I do wake up early. And then during my lunchtime, I go on an hour run, and then at night, after my kids are in bed, I do another hour. But I try to maximize my time with the family, and so I wake up really early, and I get back as quick as I can, and you just pound through that, and you hope it's enough. I've done enough other big mountains that I can kind of gauge how I'll do, and if weather opportunity opens up, and it just so happens that I think we might get an opportunity to get to the top. So.
That's awesome. We have a couple minutes left. I need you to talk about prayer flags, because a lot of our viewers have probably seen prayer flags in people's yards. You know what these are? They're a big string of flags, and they've got usually a yellow, a blue, and a red triangle, maybe a green one, something like that. My neighbor had them forever, and I kept thinking, why is he not taking those down? They're falling all apart.
Yeah, they get faded and they're falling apart. And you're
but there's a reason, right?
So a big reason. So the Prayer Flag Project is a project we do when we climb the mountains. Now, like you just said, these prayer flags, what are they? And as you look to Mount Everest as the biggest mountain, if you start looking at pictures of Mount Everest, you'll see these flags all over it. Yeah. Everywhere you turn on Mount Everest, there's these flags. They're on, they call them stupas. They'll be just decorated everywhere. And I thought, what are these flags? What do they mean? And there is a flag called the wind horse flag. And that wind horse flag, Tibetans believe, if you hang them in the high mountain winds, these winds will beat against them and little threads will come off. And as each thread comes off in the wind and blows into the wind, it's supposed to represent strength, hope, and well-being. So it's a representation of strength, hope, and well-being. And so what we wanted to do in Radiating Hope is we wanted to honor people locally. And so lots of times when you do all these humanitarian efforts, it's hard to connect people locally because you're out there in Africa helping them, but what happens to all the people locally who fought through cancer, who have a hard time in life, and we wanted to honor them, and these people in Ogden or wherever. Yeah. And so what we do is if someone's treated with cancer at Ogden Regional Medical Center, in our cancer center, at the end of their treatment, I dedicate a flag in their honor. We give them a certificate that says a Tibetan flag was dedicated in your honor. We tell them what it's all about. and then we write their name on the side of one of these Tibetan flags. And that goes with our mountain climbers who take it up and down mountains around the world. Now our goal was to get it on the top of every continent. And so far our flags have been on the top of 6 continents, and Mount Everest is the last one to go. So these little threads have blown in the mountains on top of every continent with little, thoughts of strength, hope, and well-being in honor of our patients here locally.
Yeah.
Honoring them and all their efforts that they have done. And so this Everest trip, we're going to take all these flags we've gathered over the years, and we have over 2,000 flags now.
Wow.
And we're going to take all of these. Yeah, it's pretty neat. There's a lot of flags.
Yeah.
It's almost a backpack full.
Yeah.
So we're going to take these flags to the base camp of Mount Everest, and we have a Buddhist who's going to do the typical ceremony with them and kind of solidify their journey, and they're going to stay at Mount Everest until they disintegrate away.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's the last kind of journey of this set of prayer flags that have been traveling for about 7 years now.
This is an interesting story. I'll bet you folks out there are glad you tuned in, because this is pretty cool. And if you'd like to follow Dr. Fisher and his climbs, he has a website. It's radiatinghope.org.
Mm-hmm. And then also on that website, say you have someone you'd want us to carry a flag in honor of, go to that website. There's a link that says Prayer Flag Project. You can write their name in there, send it to me, I'll get it, and I'll write their name on a flag, and I'll even send them a certificate that says the flag was dedicated in their honor, and show them how they could track the flag as we move up to base camp. Ogden Regional sent us with a GPS tracker, so over the 15 days we're working up to the base camp, we're going to have that tracker on us, and eventually, report when we do the final ceremony.
This is incredible. Virtually every person out there has been touched by cancer in one way or another.
Yeah.
And the good news is more and more people are surviving. And I mean, the survival rate now versus 25 years ago?
Yeah, it just keeps going up. The 5-year survival is currently at 70% for America.
Yeah.
And it does keep climbing.
70%.
Yeah.
And in these developing countries, the survival rate's pretty much 0%.
It's about 15%.
Really?
So there are some people that beat it, but not a lot.
Well, we thank you for joining us again. That website is radiatinghope.com. Just go there and check it out. Follow Dr. Fisher. Send a prayer flag in the name of somebody that you love that has either survived cancer or maybe someone that you've lost from cancer. And thank you for joining us on Untamed TV. And thanks for saying hi to Craig when I see you out in the crowds, because a lot of you stop me and say, hey, aren't you that guy from TV? And I always say, no. No, I always say yes. I always say yes, and I appreciate you folks saying hello. Join us again on Untamed TV soon.